welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
Oh, there's my audio, and then how did I not check this? It's every time we get a new co-host, it screws something up. But welcome everybody to the Cruising is Live podcast. Hope you guys are ready for another episode. We've got, instead of Justin and Dimitri, they unfortunately were not able to make it today, but we've got our co-host, or our producer, Tyler. What's going on?
Hey, it's good to be back here, everyone. Thank you so much for having me back, Brandon.
That's
It's always fun to be back on the show. A long time. Well, not been a long time. It's only been a few weeks since the last time, but in terms of it being a regular, it's good to be back.
Yes. It's been a while since we've done a podcast too, so glad to be back doing these again. They're always fun to do. But today we've
100%.
got a really exciting topic. We're going to be talking all about the deployments here for Royal Caribbean for the year of 2027. We've actually got some that are not available yet, and some that are of course available now. So some ships are completely booked out through 2027, and then there's a few that are only scheduled through April. So we'll kind of dive into each and every one of these, and of course, kind of give our opinions and things like that. One key ship that I have seen that has not been released yet, along with others, we got the big Icon class, basically deployments for the year of 2027, but Icon was left off of that list. So we're going to be diving into that. And of course, we have Icon class number 4 coming out later that year. So we're going to give our little speculations on that once we get to those ships. But we're going to start from the oldest in the Vision class and work our way all the way to those Icon ships. So definitely stay tuned. We've got a great episode for you guys. But Tyler, you want to go ahead and kick us off with the Vision class, starting over in San Juan.
Yeah, so Vision's going to be sailing, I believe that's San Juan, right? That's the one. So Vision's out of San Juan, which I think is really interesting. I mean, it's nothing uncommon to have Royal Caribbean homeport ship out of San Juan. It's nothing new. They've had Jewel sail out of San Juan. It's really cool because with them sailing out of San Juan, they can reach the Southern Caribbean, which typically, if you sail out of Florida ports with that run, right, you kind of lose 2 to 3 sea days. So you're able to spend every day at a port, which is really cool about that run. So, I mean, yeah, it's not the most wow ship in terms of the Royal Caribbean fleet nowadays. However, I think it's perfect for that run because that run isn't really meant for it. This ship is amazing. It's meant for, let's go to these amazing ports. Let's go to Aruba, and I believe with that itinerary, the way that you typically do it is they're at port till like midnight because the islands are so close. So I think it's a good idea. Again, I was shocked when I saw that, but I'm also not like, wow, it could have done better. I mean, of course, I don't think they're going to put a Freedom class. They did before. They used to have the Freedom doing that run many years ago, but something that is interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of, to your point, the destination and not the ship. We're not going to dive into the Discovery class today because we don't know anything really about them. But
Correct.
That's exactly what Royal Caribbean is hoping to accomplish with said Discovery class. I do think it was weird. I think this was the ship where they originally had, it was either her or Rhapsody, because they're both actually doing the same deployments, at least to start out the year of 27 in San Juan. They're both doing 7 nights from there. But they actually changed with some Radiance class ships. I believe it was Radiance and Jewel. If I'm not mistaken, one of those two were swapped out to move to Tampa in place of those. So we've got 2 Vision class, the Vision and Rhapsody, both starting out the year. Oddly, no summer deployment for Vision, but we've got Rhapsody is going to spend the summer in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? That was something that I kind of found interesting, was no year-round ship in that region, right? But I mean, I'm not shocked. Okay, look, that class of ship is I would say with all Royal Caribbean having more and more of these bigger ships, right? Those kind of
Aging.
ships will be, yeah, aging ships. I guess is the best way to put it, right? Doing those weird itineraries. I call them
Right.
weird, but they're not the ones that typically sell, right? They sell a certain demographic. There's a
Right.
certain type of people that go on the Raspity, the Vision, the
Mm-hmm.
Grandeur. It's not your first time cruisers, right? So of course
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be doing more of these interesting itineraries. So again, none of these announcements shocked me, except Radiance, I think, is year round out of Tampa, which was interesting. I
I'll
mean,
take
usually
it.
it's something. Yeah, again, not a terrible ship. The
No.
Radiance is it's a newer ship. It's like less than 20 years old. It's like
Mm-hmm.
2003 or something. So it's not ancient compared to the Grandeur. Even that's
Mm-hmm.
like still 30. So
I feel like what a lot of people don't realize, and even myself, it's because you think of the larger ships are newer, but the Voyager class and the Radiance class actually came out somewhat simultaneously, if not the Radiance class were actually coming out after some of the Voyager class ships, which is interesting.
which says people don't really understand, Brandon. People don't really grasp the fact that the Radiance came out after Voyager, right? Voyager
Mm-hmm.
of the Seas was in 1999, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the last Radiance class was in like 2005 or something, which is,
I think so.
or maybe even later, even 2008. I'm gonna look that up. I think the Jewel of the Seas
I
is
think
the last
it's
one. Which,
2004 or
speaking of
5 because I think we got Freedom in 6 or 2007 ish. But yeah, it's so funny
May
because like I mean
2004.
May 2004 exactly. So I mean yeah, it's like one of those weird things. Like they are they are like looking to eventually phase those out, which is interesting because they're relatively new compared to Voyager. But yeah, they serve an interesting purpose, especially with the Vision class right now because of what they're trying to do here.
Absolutely, and it's something I think we should talk about. Do we have an idea what Jewel's doing? Because that's speaking of the last ship of the class. Is Jewel doing what I think she's doing, European, or is she's in the Caribbean? I didn't quite see the total rundown of the deployment for those smaller ships, but I believe I have a rough draft. They're not changing too much, if I'm correct.
Yeah, she's actually fours and fives out of Tampa as well through April at least.
Okay,
Just no summer deployments.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's something to note, folks, that we do have a date for those summer deployments. The seasonal Caribbean, not year round, is, I believe, coming out December the 8th. So that is the tentative date the Royal Caribbean has sent, saying that seasonal Caribbean will be out December 8th, and also November 10th will be the Northeast, which we'll get into in a minute, California and Texas. Again, all that coming up later in this podcast. But want to throw those dates out. So when you think about it, when we're talking about this, yeah, these ships have not been announced yet, some of them. So
Yeah, and actually
as
you've
Brandon
got
said.
because you've got the list in front of you. Again, like I mentioned earlier at the start, so some of these ships, there are a couple ships that have complete year of 27 available to book. Some of them are partial, some of them are only the first few months. But there is a schedule, and Tyler can kind of break that down real quick of the ones that we don't have yet, when to kind of expect that.
Right. So what we don't have yet, what ships are really the big major ones. Of course, Brandon mentioned some of these smaller ones are missing for like past a certain date. Is we're really missing big ships. Is of course we're missing Icon, which we'll
That's
talk
the
to a little bit later.
big question mark.
That's the big. That's the big one, right? That's one of the biggest ships in the world. But we'll talk. It's a little smaller, not smaller by much, but we're missing Symphony of the Seas. That's missing off the list. Allure, Odyssey, and also Oasis. And of course, all those ships typically are either in South Florida or in New York or Europe. So that's still to be determined. Now, Europe has already been released. They released that October 27th. And Alaska, which we'll talk about West Coast, all that stuff in a minute, those have been released too. So we kind of know they're not going to Alaska and not going to Europe. However,
Hmm.
we're still kind of missing those details of where those ships are going. Now, here's the deal. They can't go a lot of places. And this is something I think we'll dive into right off the bat. Brandon, what do you think is your ship that will be sailing out of New York doing those northeastern cruises? Personally, I'm feeling, I hope it's going to be the Allure of the Seas. I think it'll be a nice switch up.
Hmm.
Typically against the Oasis and the Symphony, right? So I think Allure would be a good switch up. What do you think?
Actually, so I know we kind of briefly touched on this right before we started the podcast because, it was kind of an interesting question. But with Symphony's actually due for dry dock. She doesn't have a summer deployment for 27 yet. I'm assuming, at least my guess would be that Symphony is going to go to the Mediterranean for her dry dock, which only leaves Oasis or Allure for the New York deployment for the summer. So I'm going to say Allure.
That'd be cool. I definitely do think so. And there's something also to mention too, which this is not really in this podcast, right, of deployments, but this is something to think about when we're thinking of deployments in the next few years. There's a few dry docks coming online in this part of the world, right, in the greater Gulf of America, Caribbean region. There's some dry docks coming online. There's one in Progresso that's
You're right.
can handle an Oasis class ship, and I believe Freeport's finally getting their
They have a lot.
fix, whatever you want to call it, the big fix that Oasis screwed over that dry dock. So that's gonna be something to watch.
I
Yeah, right?
remember
that
that.
story?
So funny story with that. I was sitting in the library at school. I had just gotten off of Carnival Liberty with Justin. So we had just seen Oasis and everything, and it was April Fool's Day, and somebody at the shipyard DMs me on Instagram, and a picture of the ship. I'm like, it's April Fool's Day. Some dude just photoshopped this and sent it to me. Nope. Everywhere. Everybody's like, oh my God, it collapsed in dry dock. That was the craziest thing. We don't think about that anymore, but it's just one of those funny little stories now.
It was funny. This was in I had a class, and we were talking in seamanship, right? We were talking last week about ship, maintenance and planned maintenance, and then talking about dry docks, right? And there, sure enough, was a photo of the crane on the back of the Oasis. I remember where I was. Yeah, I remember where I was for that. Yeah, same story with Brandon. I wasn't in college back when I was in high school. Yeah, I was driving home from school, and I checked the phone, and it's blowing up, Oh, the crane crashed. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Good times. Not really.
Yeah, probably not for Oasis, but jumping back to our deployment list, though, one really cool one out of the Vision class is the Grandeur. Is actually sailing out of Latin America. 7-night cruises. Ooh. From Colón and Cartagena, Colombia. That's interesting. That's a really cool one. I mean, I don't think that's going to be very popular for the Americans. That probably is going to be more on a Latin American audience and clientele and all of that. But, kind of your point to San Juan earlier is that down there you can really focus on the destination because for at least Colón and Cartagena, you're closer to the ABC Islands. You're closer to places like Barbados. You can do that easily within a 7-night cruise, whereas you got to do at least a 10+ night cruise to get from Miami down to Barbados and back. And that's a lot of sea days.
And this is nothing new for Royal Caribbean too. I believe they had the Raspedy last year or the year before. Was it the first time they tried this ship out of Cartagena? And it did really well from what I've seen. Of course, this is a Vision class ship, so having it full is not a crazy feat. It's only 1,000 to 2,000 passengers, but still, the idea, the concept is there, and that's cool to see that they're picking this up, right? There's other ports in Royal Caribbean's portfolio that there's rumors that they're dropping or not putting a ship in deployment, which we'll talk to in Northeast deployment because of lack of them filling up a ship, even though people love the itinerary. It's just that they can't fill a ship. So this is good to see that they're returning with the Grandeur to Cartagena doing those Central Caribbean. I think Central America, Caribbean cruises. So that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these Vision class ships serve a really unique purpose in the fleet right now because they're, because of the size of most of their ships, they're serving a really key role by still focusing on the destination where, I guess the other 80% of the fleet is off the destination itself over the actual destinations that they go to. Right.
And that's something interesting too,
Right.
Diving into that, it's again, I don't know if you heard about what's happening in Boston with the ship. Royal Caribbean traditionally has had a ship for about a few months, 2 to 3 months, maybe even a month, but do Northeast cruises up to Canada, New England during fall foliage, right? It's usually beautiful. However, they can't seem, from what I heard from inside sources, right, that they can't seem to fill that ship. Even though everyone who goes on the ship loves the itinerary, it's just, I don't know, Boston, for whatever reason, isn't selling. So they're pulling out allegedly. And again, we will know this
Allegedly.
happen. Again, this hasn't been confirmed. November 10th is when this will be announced if they're going to Boston or not. But from what I hear, they're just going to kind of focus all their northeastern operations out of Cape Liberty.
That's a very popular. Honestly, with the Newark Airport, even JFK, LaGuardia, like you've got a lot of really big airports right there. Not that Boston doesn't have a major airport, it does, but like I feel like that's a bigger hub, and it really won't sacrifice too much when it comes to the length of the cruise, like how far they got to go. By just focusing in Cape Liberty rather than doing there and Boston.
Right. So that's something that's interesting to watch. Again, November 10th. So this week coming up, kind of see what gets announced for up in that market.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that fall foliage cruise. It's a really popular cruise, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not popular in the fact that it sells out. So people
Right.
love it, great reviews, but it's not everyone's going on this cruise. So that'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Any other smaller ship deployments? I think we said we covered two of the ships are out of Tampa. What about Alaska? What are we having for the Radiance class? Typically, they always have a Radiance class out of Alaska. Is this a year that they're going to skip, or are we getting the Brilliance in Alaska, for example?
So yes, one that we missed out of the Vision class was Enchantment is doing sevens out of Tampa, kind of
Okay.
the normal Western Caribbean sailing. So we won't spend too much time on that one. But yes, that we have Jewel of the Seas, or no, I have Serenade.
Jules out of Tampa, right?
Yeah, Jewel's out of Tampa through April doing 4s and 5 actually, but I have Serenade doing Alaska in the summer.
Okay.
But she's going to be sailing out of Vancouver, one of the Vancouver ships. That's one interesting thing too, is that out of Alaska they've got 2 ships in Vancouver, 2 ships in Seattle.
Wow. 4.
I know, it's a big deployment this year.
That's something that's interesting to watch. Royal Caribbean typically wasn't the biggest in Alaska. They did grow with more tonnage. I think the Explorer of the Seas was their first mega ship to go to Alaska, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it still wasn't a big growth until like last year when they put the Anthem, the Ovation, and the Quantrum in that market, and the whole West Coast, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is interesting to see because primary to that, it was majority Norwegian, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
Encore, the Bliss, that and the Joy, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
were the big ships. So it's kind of cool seeing Royals pretty much putting most of the Quantrum class out of that market,
Right.
as well as a few smaller vessels.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And that's the funny thing is usually they focus these smaller ships out of Alaska with the Radiance class, but Serenade's the only one.
Interesting.
She's the only one. Which her off season, by the way, is going to be in San Diego. Which, to my knowledge, if it doesn't start this year, which I think it either starts this year or in 26. I mean, if it doesn't start in 26, the 27 would be the first time they've ever home ported a ship out of San Diego.
Which is, I believe, you're right, and that's something that again it gets announced November 10th is the big California deployment, and that's something
Yeah.
a market that Royal Caribbean was, they had no ships in
They
California.
abandoned
To
that
see them
market.
go from, they did right, and now they're going from abandonment to like it's I want to say one of their most successful, but they're trying to get up to
Mhm.
that capacity, right?
Yeah,
Which is really crazy because California, you can only really do
so
like
much.
one route for cruises. You can go
Right.
to Ensenada, maybe Cabo San Lucas.
I think his audio cut out.
On my back.
There you go. But yeah,
Folks,
no, like what
blame
you
the school Wi-Fi.
Texas A&M, get it together.
That's right.
But yeah, like you said, like you can only do so much over on the West Coast. It's Cabo San Lucas. Occasionally, you can get to Catalina. Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan's semi-frequently used, and then I think Acapulco you got to do a long run out to get there, but some ships will do it. I know Carnival Legend just recently did it a couple weeks ago.
And they can do Hawaii too. Hawaii is
Yes.
an option. However, that's also, as you said, a long run. You have to go a
Right.
good distance to get over to Hawaii, and that's something it's doable. Yeah, you could probably do a 14-night cruise. I'm sure you can do it a few times a year, and it probably would actually, sell out. However, that's expensive. It's a lot of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
just rather do the 3 and 4 nights, which is crazy. Is the fact that you have the Navigator, which is a phenomenal ship, right? It's arguably one of my favorites, doing so well in that market that they're bringing, I think, almost two. They're bringing two Quantum class ships there, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Plus,
Yes, disconnected.
should be a way to. Oh, we're back now. See something.
There we go. I think.
All right, folks.
No. Hold on.
There we go. We are back. Yep, we're back.
Okay, we are back.
We apologize
Okay, cool.
for the technical difficulties, folks. It's streaming from different states. Oh, so much technical stuff going on, but we are back. Thank you for bearing with us here. We were talking about the West Coast deployments here for a moment. We'll kind of circle back into that. Really interesting stuff going on with the West Coast. As I was getting into the statistics, I would love to see how the growth is. Are we getting, is it a big curve? Again, I love seeing the analytical data stuff in maritime. It's something that really fascinates me, is all the little numbers and the facts. So I'm curious, Brandon. Again, I'm wondering how that's. I mean, obviously we know it's driving their deployments, right? But I'm curious, how much is it them forcing into the market, or just the numbers pushing the growth?
Yeah, and again, I don't know if I was able to make this point. I know it cut out there for a second, but as I was mentioning a second ago, for a market in Homeport like Los Angeles that they literally abandoned for over 10 years, the last ship prior to all of this was the Mariner, and she was still, semi-new at that point. But they abandoned that market for almost 10 years, and now they've got, 2 large quantum ships and a Voyager class, one of the more popular Voyager class, and now, they're going to move another ship down to San Diego. California's, progressing and growing very quickly for them.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing that. And as I said, I'm curious if they're Royal Caribbean's forcing these ships in to see if, to make forced growth, or if this is actually growing, which, I mean, there's obviously a market, right? And that's something that the cruise lines see. I mean, shoot, Carnival has the Firenze and the Horizon out of there. So that's
Panorama.
Not Horizon, sorry, the Panorama. Same thing. Jeez.
But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Panorama was a brand new ship. That was the first time a new build had gone to California in 20 years or something like that.
Right.
I mean, it seems like, one, it might be a growing market, but 2, it's a market that has potential if you put the right ships there.
Right. So that's something I'm interested to see. Again, November 10th is the date. We should get or around that, be there a little after. We should get the official announcement for those ships. Not really expecting anything crazy. Navigator, I think she's going to Australia, but I don't know if she's coming back. Don't know what's the plan with that. Do you know anything about that? I know this year coming up, I think she is going to Australia or Asia, that region, right?
So yeah, she's actually going to go to Asia soon, which we'll get to Voyager class here in just a moment. But yes, she is going to go to Asia. Quickly touching on Radiance, she's going to do kind of a variety of sailings, but she's doing essentially just Tampa, I think, year-round, which is interesting that they're going to put the Radiance year-round out of Tampa, 4 all the way up to 8-night cruises from there, which is great for them. I mean, honestly, at this point, Tampa's becoming a problem because it's getting more and more popular the same way as Canaveral is, but obviously they're very limited in size of the ship. They could maybe add another terminal, but when you think about it, if you add a terminal, what are you going to put there? The additional Radiance class, and which isn't to say it's a bad thing, but it's, when you're going to invest, a few $1 million into building a new terminal, you kind of want your biggest and best new thing there, not something that's older. So that's kind of a dilemma with Tampa, but it is good to see that they're going to have a Radiance class there year round, because typically in the past, and I think this year, it was it's been Vision class, one Vision class year round, and then you'd get 2 more Vision class in the off season.
And that's something that I find interesting, right? It's that market is growing significantly, but at the same time, you're really limited of what you can put in Tampa. It is crazy. That market, yeah, it's growing so big, but because of that bridge, you're cooked. You can't put anything besides Radiance, which the good news is, Radiance will be around for, I don't know, another 10, 15 years. That
I
class
think
is
so.
new, relatively
Yeah.
speaking. So at least Tampa has a ship for a little bit. But 10,
Right.
20 years, unless Discovery is what they claim it's going to be, which is not built for Tampa, but they can make it so it can go through Tampa.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in luck, but if not, their days are numbered, writing on the wall. But that's not a discussion for this podcast. We'll get back into deployments here.
Yeah. We've done a podcast
Pretty
on
much covered
Discovery
all ships.
before, and I've done a recent video on it. It's one of those topics that, like, at this point, it's kind of like beating a dead horse. I mean, there's only so much information we know. They've been teasing it for years, and like we still don't see it 3 years later. And it's essentially what, when I did my video recently on it, that was my conclusion, is like, yeah, it's been 3 years and they've still haven't told us anything.
Yeah, right. Again, that's something they said, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming.
Yeah,
Oh, it's going to happen.
sure it is.
No, yeah, okay, when?
Right, exactly. Moving on to Brilliance, though, she is actually sailing 3 and 4 nights out of Port Everglades through April of 20, which is interesting to have a ship like that. I think it was it Jewel this year that did that? I think Jewel this year was doing 3s and 4s. She just finished up those. I think she did a summer deployment, though, to my knowledge.
Correct, which is not uncommon for them to put one of these smaller ships in for the summer, because typically the summer it's a busy time, but it's also typically all the, let's say, better ships, but the ships that are more ideal for, like, wow, I want to go on a 3-night cruise, typically is in Europe or they're in Alaska. So it's not shocking them putting, a smaller ship that's, maybe doing other things in this itinerary, but year round, or at least a good portion of it, having the Brilliance out of doing 3 and 4 nights is pretty interesting, right? Because you have, which we'll talk to in a minute, you have like the big Oasis class ships, right? Which we'll get to later in the show.
It goes against the industry norms at the moment.
Brilliance.
It kind of reverses time a little bit, because 10 years ago, we had, the Carnival Sensation and the Majesty of the Seas running 3 and 4 night cruises out of Miami and Port Canaveral. Like, these small ships is what they use the 3 and 4 night ships for. Nowadays, we're getting brand new Oasis class, and, we're getting Mardi Gras and 4s and 5s. Like, so it's that was probably seeing a small ship, okay, cool. Like, having that, but going against what is the norm now with deployments on these larger ships doing these, it was really surprising to see a Radiance class doing 3s and 4s.
Right. No, I have nothing against the Brilliance, right? The Brilliance was my first cruise ship, so that plays very special ship to me. However, I personally, wouldn't go out of my way to get on. If you said, Tyler, you get to go on the beautiful Utopia, or you get to go on the Brilliance, I'm like, I'm picking the Utopia any day. Now, pricing wise, I don't know, maybe it's
going to be a little bit more
maybe that makes it more appealing to go on. Yeah,
you're right.
I mean, I would go on the Brilliance 100%. I mean, that's like a no-brainer if the pricing is right. I mean, not a bad ship. It's not the Utopia, but it's still not
it's half the
terrible
price
ship. Yeah, no-brainer, right?
Right. But yeah, Jewel is also TPA through April. Serenade, we've already touched on. So Jewel's 4s and 5s out of TPA through April of 27. So no summer deployment for her either, which is interesting. So, we might get some sort of maybe a European phase 2 deployment for her soon. But moving on to Voyager class, though, speaking of LA, Voyager of the Seas is going to make her debut over in Los Angeles. She's another one of the Los Angeles ships. I think that actually happens in 26 leading into 27. But she's actually going to spend the summer up in Alaska. So she's going to be the additional Alaska ship to go up with, Serenade.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that. That's all. I knew she was going back to LA, which is, again, Voyager is from that area. She was in Australia for so long. So having her back in the West Coast or that Pacific region, not surprising. But Alaska, that would be cool. Voyager is a really cool ship. Yes, it's not I wouldn't say the best in the Voyager class, but they did a really good job with the refurbishment. Yeah, she's still dated around some places, but she's still an amazing ship for being from 99. You can't tell me that ship was from 99. Most people, when I was on board the Voyager, when she was in Canaveral this past winter, you could not tell me that. When I told them, when people went on board, and they were like, the ship's from the 90s. They're like, no, this ship is like 2010. Like, but no, it's from the 90s, which is crazy.
It's just, it shows how how far ahead of the times that Royal Caribbean like consistently is throughout the years. They built the Voyager back in 1999. We didn't see any. By the time Carnival built something equivalent in size to Voyager, it was the Vista class in 2016. 16 years later.
2016.
And now we've got the Oasis class that came out in 2009, and we didn't see another ship over 200,000 tons until we got World Europa back in 22. So they're like always consistently way ahead of the times when it comes to shipbuilding and how big their ships are and things like that. Like the Voyager class is timeless too. I think it's a very iconic design. In early 2000s vibe. Like it still has the retro yet like a nice healthy mix of the retro and megaship vibe. Not quite a megaship because it's not quite that big, but it's a very large ship kind of mixed with the old timey feel to it.
And that's something which, again, this is not a Voyager class lover session, but I am absolutely the biggest fan of the Voyager class. Okay, yes, we could. I mean, this is our podcast. I don't know about you, Brandon. I don't got much to do tonight. We could sit here all night and just yap about this is the best class. But no, it is still just amazing that the Voyager class is still so relevant in today's modern cruise ship game.
Absolutely.
And the fact that every time I see this really ticks me off. This really grinds my gears, as the kids say. Is every time I see online videos of like next cruise ships to be scrapped, and they always throw Voyager in the list. It's like, yeah, I don't think Royal's dumping that. No. Oh, it's from the 90s though. But I'm like, no, that thing is still making them money. And to my knowledge, that ship is in pristine condition for, I mean, yeah, it's not like the newest and the greatest, but that ship
for 25 years old
still isn't amazing condition.
Yeah, I mean those are fantastic ships. Again, Voyager, despite her age, is doing quite well. But she's not doing the open jaw or the one-way Alaska sailings, but she's going to be actually teamed up in Seattle though with some of the Quantum class ships, which is cool.
Which I think is perfect. Again, that class of ship is really great for Alaska. That ship is, and that's one thing I didn't really like when I went on the Quantum to Alaska. I didn't really like that class of ship in Alaska because you don't feel as connected to the ocean or the environment technically versus on a Voyager class. There's so much spots to enjoy the sea. You get deck 4, which in the chat someone mentions how great it is, and that's
under the
that to itself is great.
Under the lifeboats, the bow, the low railings up on the pool deck. You got great visibility all around the pool deck. Like, fantastic ships.
Amazing. In the back of the ship with the floor rider, that class of ship is I think the best class of ship. Now again, I know people are like, oh, Oasis is great, but I think in terms of being like connected to the ocean and getting a sense that you're on a ship, Voyager class is the best. Especially Voyager 2.0, which we're going to talk to. We kind of talked about Navigator. But again, I think that is the 2.0 is absolutely amazing. When they add the glass balconies and the features. But again, this isn't a Voyager class lover session. We'll get back to the deployment part of it.
Explorer though, coming right back home, she's going to be staying in Port Canaveral doing 4s and 5s for a while. But she's through April and then going to spend the summer in the Mediterranean for 26. But no deployment for the winter. And we'll probably get the winter deployments. Probably well into next year, but it's good that she at least has a summer.
Is the day for that.
Yeah, so at least she's got a summer deployment in the Mediterranean, which is gonna be great. She was predicted and kind of expected to be, since she is Voyager's replacement this year, or kind of fit into Voyager's spot that she took last year on the 4 and 5s. That's always been a seasonal deployment for the last couple of years, so not too surprised that she's going to spend the summer over in Europe, but it's good to see her here again. Adventure. We gotta skip through some of these because we're about 35 minutes into this. But Adventure is no summer deployments, which is odd, but she is going to do some 6 and 8 nights through the April, so early season of 2027. So that's quite interesting because I know she's paired up with Legend for a while there, but weird that she's not. They don't have her going like to Europe or anywhere else. So interesting where they're going to send her for the summertime though.
Right. That's the whole thing we don't know yet, which I mean, again, as I like to say to people, how do you know this stuff? You just put two and two together. So you kind of figure
Puzzle
out where
pieces.
ships are at. Yeah, it's puzzle pieces. I mean, that's
Yeah.
everything in life, right? You can kind of figure things out just through puzzle pieces, two and two together, basic
Yeah.
common sense. Everglades could be. Then again, if we
Yeah.
don't know if they have a year-round ship, that could be. Where Legend goes away, could be going there. Could be going to New York. Could be going.
Right.
Who
Could
knows?
go
But
anywhere.
you just put two and two together. You figure out,
Right.
okay, well, obviously
Exactly.
isn't going to Europe, and it probably isn't going to Alaska. So where in North
Right.
America she's sailing. So
Right, exactly. Like, referencing Icon that we're going to get to here in a minute. Like, sometimes, you notice things, at least when you've been around it for as long and you kind of analyze it to the depth that we do here. But, you see, okay, so all of the Icon class gets a deployments for, for the summer and through the end of 2027, except for Icon did not. But at the same time as the Icon sailing stop, there's also a new ship coming out. So it's kind of like, okay, you can kind of piece that together that one might be moving and one might be taking over, that type of thing. So, that's the fun part, is like when you kind of notice patterns, it's pretty fun just kind of like predicting and things like that. Because honestly, like, not to like toot my own horn, but sometimes it's like really cool because a lot of the times you end up being right because you're like, yeah, it makes sense. Obviously, like, yeah, she moved, but there's another ship scheduled to come here. Obviously, like, that's just taking over. She's gonna go somewhere else.
right, and that's always fun to see. You hear all these people like, oh, they're going to send the.
Hmm.
What's the funniest one that quickly to touch on that there people always say that it's going to happen and it never happens. And it's like, guys,
An Icon class
it's
in
like
Galveston.
yeah, it's like well, we still got 10 minutes, Brandon. We still got 10 minutes, buddy.
No,
Jeez.
that was in reference to things that never happen.
Anywho,
Nah,
where were
we'll get to it, but I think
we?
it'll happen. I think it'll happen.
He's ruined our whole podcast, man. No, I'm just kidding. Back to it. Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing if people say always happens, never does. So,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, again, it'll be interesting to see what's happening with Adventure. Let's talk about Mariner. I think it's a good one. Oh, well, yeah,
Touch on, well, Mariner and Navigator, because they're kind of the
yeah,
2.0 versions of the Voyager class. But
my favorite
Navigator
part.
is she's leaving California. Speaking of all of sending all the ships over to California, she's actually being replaced basically, and she's moving over to Asia. She's doing a variety of 2 nights all the way up to 10 nights between Singapore and Tokyo. I think I
Interesting.
might be sailing on Navigator now. No, but no, that's cool. I mean, honestly, Asia is a market that they pulled out of a lot. They were really heavily into it pre-COVID, and I think that market's finally rebounding, at least for some of the Asia regions. So it's interesting. Unfortunately, I wish they would have put Navigator here in Florida because, again, like you said, the Voyager class are fantastic, especially the 2 new ones. But it's good to see that they're kind of moving back into some of the markets that they pulled out of, over the last several years.
Absolutely, and again, I agree, with Brandon. I think it's very sad that they pulled the Navigator from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think the best ship in the class,
Mm-hmm.
besides the Mariner. Love the Mariner. Which again, that's interesting to say. I mean, it's good that they're pulling back into China or that Asian market, right? Again, that was
Mm-hmm.
something that they had big plans for, and of course, COVID came and
Mm-hmm.
they got drifted
Delayed
off
the
track.
process, but we'll get back to
It's
it, I
coming
think.
back.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Spectrum stayed there because that would have been just a several, probably close to $50 to $100 million renovation at minimum, just to get it to come over to the States for maybe a few years. But
Yeah.
So, and again, Wonder originally was supposed to go over there, which is a crazy thing to think about nowadays. She's so popular here in Florida. Like, Wonder was supposed to go over to Asia at one point. Or actually, originally, she was just going to be the Asia ship along the Spectrum.
And that still can happen. Again, I don't know. Do we know with her 5-year dry dock is next year or it's in a few years? Her
I
5-year
think
dry
it's
dock. So when
in,
that comes up,
I think it's in 27.
huh? Okay, it'll be interesting to see if during her 5-year dry dock, if they put her to, because that's the time to do it, right? Because you're in 5-year dry dock. That's your time to put her
Yeah,
back to Asian. But again, also the Wonder's doing pretty well in South
she's
Florida,
doing
so why pull it,
fantastic.
right? I
Right.
mean, again, that's another discussion for another day about Oasis 7, but that's
Mhm.
you put two and two together, as I said earlier. You
Yeah.
can kind of think that, yeah, one of those is probably going to go maybe go to China, or it's going to
Right.
do 3 and 4 nights. It's
Right. And
again,
Oasis 7
2
won't
plus
be
2 is 4.
discussed really tonight because she's in
No, no, that's yep,
2028. So
yep.
1 year from today, stay tuned. And
Stay tuned,
we'll talk about
folks.
Oasis 7. But yeah, so with that, we also have Mariner, like you mentioned, New Orleans to start out the year. That's cool. That's an awesome ship to have in New Orleans. That's huge for over there too.
I will be very sad seeing her leave
Hmm.
Galveston. Prior to this podcast, 30 minutes prior to this podcast starting, I saw her depart, head out to sea. So it's awesome seeing her in
Hmm.
Galveston. You know, I'm going to college at. So this is phenomenal. I get to see my favorite ship
Hmm.
all the time. Uh, but yeah, it's kind of sad she's going to New Orleans, but it's a perfect ship for that market. I mean, that
It
is
really
the
is.
river, especially with that transit. As I said, back
Oh,
to
it's
the
so
port of the
cool.
Voyager being in Alaska. I mean, having that transit, be able
So
to be out on
cool.
the lifeboat deck, the bow, it's going to be super cool. The river is
Hmm.
always super neat to sail on, and that in itself is a reason to sail the Mariner out of New Orleans, is because you get to be so connected with that passage, which is super
Hmm.
cool, especially on the way out, which is at daytime, some of it, not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah, it's very cool. If you haven't cruised out of New Orleans, I highly recommend it. It is a really, really cool experience, especially if you are able to time it to where, there's a ship coming in for the next day for turnaround day, and you're heading out. Like you pass very close going up that river. Like it's narrow, and you're still passing ships going north and southbound. Like it's really cool.
Oh yeah, there's so much marine traffic on the river. It's not even funny. I mean, you'll pass cruise ships, you'll pass bulk carriers, tankers, you'll pass a lot. That's really
Hmm.
cool of a transit. There's so much anchorage, and it's a really cool transit. The moral of
Hmm.
the story is, yeah, I would hop on the chance to sail the Mariner out of New Orleans because it's probably not every day a Royal Caribbean's going to put a ship of this size in New Orleans, at least that we know of. So I would hop on the Mariner being there. It's a great ship. You won't be disappointed going on the ship alone. But then the itinerary, again, can't beat it.
Right. Right. Um, we're gonna have to speed it up a little bit because we're coming up
Yep, yep.
on about 45 minutes. But unfortunately, I don't want to skip through the Freedom class because I love those ships. But Freedom 4 and 5s out of Miami. No summer deployments for any of these three. Liberty is doing 4s and 5s out of Galveston. She's actually Mariner's replacement when she goes over to Galveston. That's why Mariner's moving over to New Orleans. And then Indy is doing 7 nights out of Miami.
Right. And I think, as I said, that's nothing surprising. We talked about freedom, right? And
Mhm.
that's not
She's doing
surprising.
well. She's
Liberty,
doing that now. I guess now she's moved over to 5 and 9s, but she was doing 4s and 5s for a while.
right. So that's not surprising.
Right.
Um, Liberty out of Galveston, that's not shocking.
She's
That's
always
going to
done
be
well there.
happening. Yeah, she's like the hometown ship. So
Right.
before the Mariner was here, she's like the hometown ship. So yeah,
Right.
Liberty, that will be announced this week. That's pretty much to be determined. Let's speed
Mhm.
up. Let's go to
Oasis is
Washington
next up.
class or okay.
We'll
Yep, let's go to
we'll
Oasis. Yep.
top Oasis class. We have Oasis of the Seas actually is also doing 3s and 4s out of Port Everglades, which is interesting that they're gonna have two ships doing that. But she's more focused on the Coco Cay routes, and I think what is it? Brilliance. She's probably going to be focused on going over to Bimini and things like that. So
Right.
we'll probably have more Coco routes for Oasis doing 3s and 4s, but no summer deployments for her or Allure. But Allure is starting out the year doing 7s out of Miami, which is a really cool return for her. She was actually the first ever Oasis class to sail out of Miami.
Right, which is super cool. And also you got Symphony too. We have Symphony talk about. They also
Hmm.
was the first ship to sail out of Miami at the new terminal. So that's
Hmm.
super cool. I mean, that's again not also on the schedule either. That's missing is a Symphony. But again, do the
Hmm.
math. She probably is going to go up to.
Dry dock
She has
year.
dry dock. Yeah.
She's got a dry dock
in
year.
Europe.
So Symphony, I guess we'll hit on that. She's doing 7s out of Galveston through April. Summertime, they'll spend the summer over in Europe and do a dry dock either before or after the season. Harmony coming home again. We got another exciting Port Canaveral deployment. Harmony of the Seas returning. She's doing a series of 4s and 5s, and then she's going to move over to 7s pretty much every Saturday, which I am now booked on. Now I'm finally going to be able to complete the Oasis class. She's the only one I haven't done yet. So I'm excited for Harmony to return over to Canaveral.
Absolutely. I'm excited to follow her when I go back home for breaks back to Canaveral. It's an absolute great ship. I love seeing Harmony.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful ship. Been on her once. Absolutely amazing. Would highly go on it again if I had the time. Absolutely amazing. So that's cool to see that she's going to be doing that at Canaveral. It's cool that they're pairing that with an Icon class we'll talk about
Right,
next.
exactly.
I
That'll be the
think it's
first
great.
time they're gonna pair up I mean, this is gonna start next year in late 2026. So, but this will be a first to ever have a Saturday and a Sunday 7-night ship out of Canaveral. We're gonna have a Oasis class on Saturday and an Icon class on Sundays. That's unheard of. That's never been done before in Port Canaveral for Royal Caribbean. So Carnival's been doing it for a while, but Royal Caribbean is really going all in with Port Canaveral over the last couple of years and going forward. So she's going to be a very welcome addition. She's getting a dry dock. Is it this year or it's next year? I think she's coming back from her dry dock and going straight to Canaveral. I think in September, because that's
I
when
believe
Legend
so.
is going to come out. So essentially, Legend is going to take over for Harmony's itineraries midsummer of next year.
Yes, I believe so because the
Yeah.
way it works here in Galveston, Harmony will leave, Allure comes, Symphony comes. Then, yeah, I think Harmony's going to dry dock. So, yeah, that adds up. The
Yep.
math is mathing.
Math is mathing. So I love,
There you go,
as
kids.
your finance guy, I love to hear that. But focusing in on the new ones, though, Wonder and Utopia, those are doing threes and fours. Those are pretty much extended out through 2027, doing 3 and 4 night cruises. Wonder out of Miami that she just started. I will actually, shameless plug, sailing on Wonder next weekend out of Miami for a 3 night cruise. So stay tuned for some new cruise vlogs and a tour.
There you go.
But she's going to be through 27 in Miami, along with Utopia remaining as expected in Port Canaveral, doing 3 and 4 night cruises. So she started doing that last year when she debuted in 24 and pretty much all the way through 27. She's dedicated to that route. I don't think there's really any plans on moving Utopia, not anytime soon. Eventually, I think maybe 28 with the arrival of Oasis 7, we might get movement from Utopia, but as of right now, she's the dedicated 3 and 4 night ship, and I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, again, I don't think changing at all. I think it'll keep it. LNG is the reason, too. I also think they keep Wonder in Miami, and then they keep
Yeah, exactly.
LNG because, again, fuel,
It's
it's not
easier.
far from Miami. So, yeah. So
Easier.
that's that. Let's transition to Quantum class, even though we kind of talked about it already, but
We had
just kind of run over
yeah,
that
we had a
quickly.
couple of them so far, but Quantum mostly sevens. She's actually starting out the year in Brisbane, Australia, mate. So that's cool. That's interesting that they're going out of Brisbane and not Sydney.
Right. I mean, that's something that, is interesting is how big the country is, right? Most cruises, though,
Yeah.
typically, especially Royal, do sail out of Sydney. So that's interesting to see. Again, I know it's not crazy for them to do. I think they've done it in the past, but this
Mm-hmm.
is something interesting to see. So we'll monitor that here. We'll see
Mm-hmm.
how Australian deployment happens. I know we have some Australian fans who watch the show. So to y'all
Yes.
watching,
Down under.
um, good ship coming your way, mate.
Sorry. But yeah, no, but Quantum's going to summer over in Alaska. She's going to be paired up out of Seattle with the Voyager, and then keeping it in the Quantum class, doing a similar thing. The only difference here with Anthem is that she's going to be doing the South Pacific cruises from Sydney in that Brisbane, but then she's going to do the summers over in Alaska. But Anthem specifically is doing the open jaw or the one-way trips, which is new for a Quantum class. She's going to do one-way cruises 7 days from Vancouver to Seward, and then 7 days Seward to Vancouver. So those obviously will open up a lot of possibilities when it comes to doing a 14-night cruise. And that's why those are a little bit more popular, because you get 2 weeks in Alaska and you get to visit a lot more really unique destinations on the northern end of Alaska that a lot of the ships don't get a chance to go to in 7 days. So that's a really unique piece with Anthem in 2027, is those open jaw one-way cruise.
Right, and that is possible, I believe, because they're building a new terminal in not Ketchikan, Sitka, not Sitka. Oh my word, I'm blanking on
Uh,
the terminal, the place's name. White's Pass. That's the railroad's name. Oh,
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name either.
I'm blanking on the name, folks, but they're building a new terminal there that's going to accommodate these larger ships. So that's cool. Again, super cool. Done Quantum class to Alaska. It's good times. Not my favorite ship in Alaska. Going to rather do the Voyager, but just because you don't get the connection to the environment. But that's a story
Right.
for another day. Let's keep her moving.
Yep. Speaking of LA, we've got 3, 4, and 7 night cruises for Ovation of the Seas. She, I believe, is actually getting a dry dock this year as well. She's actually going to get bridge wing suites, by the way. I don't know if I've shown you the rendering of that, but it actually doesn't look as bad as it does on Utopia. So,
okay, good.
But I don't know if it's 26 or 27, but Ovation is going to get those bridge wings. She's got a dry dock coming up pretty soon, but she's going to get bridge wing suites and a few other exciting new things. But she's doing 3, 4, and 7 night cruises out of LA, which is, again, becoming a really popular home port for Royal Caribbean. No summer deployments for her, so that could be where the dry dock throws in. So we shall see. 26 Ovation and Harmony, dry dock, and Liberty. So next year's very exciting for some ship upgrades. Moving on to Spectrum, though, we have 4 through 8 night cruises out of China. So, shocker there. She's never leaving.
Yeah.
Trust me when I say I wish they brought the Spectrum here to the States. I really wish they would, but they will not. That is a dedicated Asia ship. It would cost them a lot of money to just convert that ship to even be at least moderately successful and moderately, well adapted into the American market. Just China and the U.S. markets are so vastly different. So we probably will never see that ship over here in the States, unfortunately. So, but again, it's pretty cool Asia cruises. So if you are planning to sail to Asia in the year 2027, Spectrum is probably your ship, unless you want to head down on an older Voyager class ship with the Navigator out of Singapore and Japan. Right. Odyssey, sailing from New Jersey, 7 nights through April. It's somewhere in the Greek Isles, basically what she's been doing the last couple of years. Interesting. It's still an interesting move that they even have that ship up in New York in the wintertime. It's a warm weather ship. It's the only warm weather built, themed, designed warm weather pool deck, yet she's in the coldest part of the U.S. during the coldest part of the year. Well, I say that
very interesting,
excluding Alaska. that is the coldest part of the U.S., but you know what I mean. So
right.
Yeah, it's interesting anyways. But moving on, of course, to the Icon class, and of course, I do want to say a quick shout out to our members that we have here in the chat. I know I saw one earlier. And I see one of ours just popped in here. So thank you guys for being members of the channel. I appreciate the support. But jumping into the Icon class, we've got Icon of the Seas, like I've mentioned several times here. And this is kind of the fun part where we can really start to speculate about some of the really fun new ships. Is that Icon is sailing 7 nights out of Miami, which is awesome, through April, and then mysteriously disappears off of the radar, despite... So Star and Legend both got deployments through the summer season and basically through all of 2027, yet Icon does not. But what we do have coming in 2027 is Icon number 4. So we'll speculate on that here in just a second. But again, Star is doing 7 days year-round out of Port Canaveral. That's not going to change anytime soon. Even internal things that I've heard that they are not planning on moving her anytime soon. Legend is sailing 6 and 8 nights out of Port Everglades through the month of April, and she's returning to the Mediterranean, which is cool that they're doing that. I like that they're going to do an Icon class over in Europe seasonally, and I like that they're going to do something different with Legend. I think it's good now with the third ship that they're going to be a little bit more variety and offer more variety of destinations, because that's one of the ship's biggest limitations is getting places.
Right. And MSC World Europa proves that size of ship could fit there, so it's
those are short little guys. Well, I say little guys. The world class are kind of short. They're the Seascape is actually longer in length than the world class. Yeah, those are the longest. The Seashore and Seascape are the longest MSC ships, actually. I say short little guys, but it's their largest ship at like 208,000 tons or something like that. But yeah, they're just extremely tall is what it is. But yeah, that's the. But yeah, Interesting, moves there for MSC though, and like the size of that. They're a whole different topic though. But
Oh yeah.
but yeah, having Legends going over to Europe is really, really cool.
It is very, very awesome, and that's cool. It's a perfect ship for the Med. It's a very, warm Caribbean pool decks on the Med in the summer. Perfect ship for that. I think it's a good move with that, so that's not a shocking one. I think it's time, though. Legends. We should talk about the one that's we didn't mention. We kind of talked about Star. She's staying in Canaveral. We talked about
So
Legend. But there's one that's not there.
so of course, we can kind of speculate here in a second. We have the arrival of a. No, I'm not going to do it. But we have the arrival of Oasis Class number 4 coming in the year of 2027. Very highly anticipated, of course. She's going to follow up the Legends. So, but there's no home port, no name. It would be. I wonder what that name could be. Whew, I sure don't know, but.
Geez, I would love to know too. Geez, someone should tell me.
If you're looking for the name, go DM Cruise Ship Media.
Yeah.
Did it freeze again? Hold on.
Oh my word!
Nope.
Right.
I think we're good. We're good.
Okay. So right when we're getting into the
reconnected.
good stuff.
I know. I don't know what's going on with my PC tonight. It is not.
Oh my word!
I see the name of the ship in the chat. I'll give you guys that. But so Icon again. Where do you think she's gonna get thrown? Still continue through 7 nights through Miami, or what are we looking at here?
Well, we saw it in the chat. This is again back to my big point that I always live on when it comes to deployments. 2 plus 2 needs to equal 4.
2 plus
You
2
look
does
at what's
indeed equal 4.
Yeah, you have. If you get 2 plus 2 equals 5, it's not right.
Right.
You have to look what's going on in the cruise region around that time frame. Hey, what's opening up in around 2027, 2028, that winter? Well, you know what's opening up in Mexico? Well, Perfect Day Mexico. So
that too. I wasn't even thinking that, but you're right. Perfect Day Mexico opens around that time. We've got a brand new ship coming around that time. So Oasis 4.
What?
Or not Oasis 4. Icon 4. No. Don't even get it twisted. I love you. I love my Galveston cruisers, but don't get it twisted. I don't think you guys are getting the 4th Icon class. But you know what is going to happen around that time is that you guys are losing Symphony on your 7-day routes, and you know what ship does not have a summer deployment for the 7-day routes out of Miami either? The Icon. I am pretty confident at this point that we're going to get an Icon class. It's going to be Icon as predicted. Icon is going to replace Symphony over in Galveston.
Oh, and you know when that's coming? Oh, it's coming November 10th. Huh.
So we'll get. Oh, really?
Soon, November 10th.
We're gonna get
folks.
that. We're gonna get that news pretty soon, then I guess.
Roughly.
But
yeah. So, again, I agree totally, Brandon. It adds up. Perfect Day at Mexico. It adds Icon 4 coming in. It all adds up. We're going to get the Icon out of Galveston finally. Oh, my word. The guy who runs this port, Roger Reese, wasn't stopped talking about it. And then obviously they pushed it back, which, again, I think was within timing, right? They saw that, Perfect Day wasn't going to be ready. And, well, the whole point of having a ship of that size do that run, again, was one of the big things about Galveston, right? You could only really go. Now, Royal Caribbean has changed that, and they added Coco Cay and the Bahamas. But typically, all cruise ships out of Galveston go to 3 ports: Roatan, Costa Maya, or Cozumel, because of the size. Now, it used to be Grand Cayman and Jamaica, but because of size, time-wise, it's usually just those ports. So it adds up. If you do the math, with Symphony leaving, Icon can fill right that place.
It fills the void, yes. With Star, because I know I don't know about Icon. It's been a while now, so I don't really remember that far back. But I know with Star, it was like, oh, Star could go to Galveston. Then it was Canaveral. Then it was, oh, yay, we're gonna get Legend though, Fort Lauderdale. So I mean, I've been big on it. I don't think, a new Icon class is coming to Galveston. It's not that big of a market like it is for Carnival. Carnival has the clientele and the market share in Galveston to justify putting a brand new ship there.
Right.
But Royal Caribbean, Galveston is a growing market, and they know how much potential it has soon, but it's not big enough for them yet to do a brand new Icon class. But just because you're not getting a brand new one doesn't mean you're not going to get Icon. And again, I think it's very, very likely that we're going to get Icon to head over to Galveston in 27 for that summer deployment to take over for Symphony.
Right. And again, I think that is the most likely option. Again, fact of having Icon 4 coming to Galveston, whatever the name of that ship will be, I can never see that happening again. I wonder who. Technical difficulties, folks. Stand by. But yeah, no, I don't ever see that I'm putting Icon 4 here in Galveston. No, I mean they would swap Star in Canaveral with Icon 4 before they put Icon 4 in Galveston.
Right, exactly. And that's my point exactly. They would swap Icon out before they would put a new Icon in Galveston. Nothing against Galveston. Again, like I just said, it's just not their it's not a big enough market share for them yet. But again, it does make sense though to put an Icon class there because the Perfect Day vibes that they're going for, and Perfect Day Mexico does open that same year. We also have, likely Icon 4 going to Miami to replace her. So those two ships are going to be very frequently visiting the Western Caribbean into Perfect Day Mexico over in Costa Maya.
Right. So again, I think that's it. Other thing I can see, this is again topic for next year, but I will mention this, depending on how Perfect Day Mexico goes, I can see them putting a Oasis class on 4 and 5 nights.
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
Maybe Utopia when Oasis 7 comes out. So that's what something to think about, and that's pretty much it all for folks. We're trying to keep it not wasting your time here. A lot more to come here on the Cruising is Life podcast.
It's been a fantastic podcast. To talk about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Besides the technical difficulties, that is not in mine or Brandon's controls. But
my PC's a hunk of junk.
Oh, don't say that. Jeez. Stay tuned for a lot more on this channel. Brandon will be streaming live Port Canaveral this weekend.
Yes, stay tuned to the live streams.
Very cool.
Yes, that's
cool thing happening this weekend.
I'll plug a few things here before we go. Tyler, I'll let you go first though. If you want to shout out all your socials.
Yeah, folks, you can follow me on social platforms. That is the Cruise Junkie. Of course, the Tyler Show also is my other channel, but that channel, we rarely post on it. So follow me on all socials at the Cruise Junkie. I do update occasionally. I'm here in Galveston, so I'm filming these Galveston ships when I'm back home, doing the ships back home. So yeah, follow me there. I post whenever, so just follow me because you never know when I'll post. So I'm like a serial poster. I guess come and I go. So
there you go. And then again, before we go, again, if you haven't already, if you're new, subscribe if you don't already. We do also do live streams now over on the weekends. If you want to watch all the Sailaways live, if you haven't caught those yet, we live stream the Sailaways. I've actually got a brand new camera. So for those who have been there, it's been the Potato iPad for camera quality. We now have a very nice streaming webcam. So you'll be in for a nice little surprise on Saturday for that live stream. But he's got a 6-ship day coming up in Port Canaveral. Other than that, next weekend is going to be Wonder of the Seas for a 3-night cruise. And last but certainly not least, if you're ready for your next cruise and you're looking for a good deal, use the link in the description and book your next cruise with my friends over at cruisesit.com. And it directly supports the channel and everything that I do here. So it is very, very fun. And with that, I will do one final plug. I am streaming Switch 2 video games here in about 30 minutes over on my second gaming channel here, my second channel. So I'm gonna put that in the chat here. If you want to hang out, continue the conversation here in just a few minutes, or at 8 o'clock, so about a little less than 30 minutes from now. Come hang out. I'm gonna be playing some Switch 2 games and having a good time. So thank you all for hanging out. It's been fun, and we'll probably see you guys next week for another podcast.
That's right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Sounds like a plan. Good night, folks.
Wrong button.
Oh.